And thank you, Dr. Williams, for coming out and speaking with us. It really means a lot to us. I have already learned so much from you in just the 20 minutes we've been talking.
Yeah.
So my co-host is Aquisha Powell. We both work for the Veterans Research Center. We are now located in DeSantis on the first floor. So if you guys
Yeah.
need anything, just come down, speak with us, go, hey, just want to stop by, and we'll be more willing to like just say hi or help you. So without further ado, Dr. Williams.
All right. Can you allow me to share? I guess I can. I saw that. No, you have to go to security on your screen and then say allow sharing. There's a little shield that says security. Can you? All right. Let me see if you. The host disabled participant sharing screen. Okay, you have to enable it for me. You know what to do? Have you done it before? Mia Aquisha, you know how to disable?
Aquisha actually has the host power right now, so she's probably doing it. And
all right, I'll help you because I've done it before. There's in the bottom, there's a little like an arm, a shield, and it's called security. Then when you click on it, it'll on the third or so line, it'll say share host. Okay, and Aquisha saw it, but I don't think Mia saw it yet. All right, got it. It's good now. All right, now I take these things very seriously, so I'm very prepared, and I don't just come in and just talk to you. I do a presentation, so my presentation is not too long. It looks that way, but I'm not going to talk about every slide. And then I'm going to, you could jot down your questions or no, because it's a small group, you guys can ask me anything along the way, okay? If you have a question, just jump in. If you want to type it, that's fine, but I'm not seeing the typing. But Mia or Aquisha, if you guys, Anne and Abe, if you have a question, and Lady, the same thing. You could just say, hey, I have a question. There are only some of you. All right, so that's who I am. I'm going to give you an economic status report of where the country is today, and then I'm going to talk about financial Darwinism. I'm glad that some of you are taking some science courses. Darwinism is survival of the fittest, correct? And then the Q&A, but the Q&A is going to be more informal, so you ask me anything along the way. Now, on a world situation, coronavirus pandemic really has put a damper on everything we've ever seen. This is a 100-year event. So the IMF said, crisis like no other, an uncertain recovery. And I usually just show you a little bit of data. This is for the developed countries. Look in 2019, those were glorious growth periods. They're all positive. The 2020, we got hit with some, I even want to say it's out of space, but something really horrible, a pandemic. And all the countries are experiencing negative growth. See here? All the countries. Look at those numbers.
Professor, we only see the first screen still on the first slide.
I know how to fix it. Sorry.
It's frozen.
Yeah, it looks like it's frozen.
Thank you for telling me. I forgot. I just started. All right, so here we go. This is the statement that comes from IMF. The coronavirus pandemic has created a crisis that we've never seen before. This is just a 100-year event, okay? So we don't even know how to recover. We're trying as a world, all the countries are trying. And here's an example of why. Look at 2019, we had such great growth. For developed countries, these are good growth, 2%, 3%, so on. 2020, they dropped like lead. Every one of them have negative growth projections. But we're hoping in 2021, you'll see a little better. I don't know if it's going to be this good when this forecast was done, but I hope that 2021 will be a little better. The developing countries, even they had a good 2019, see here, except Mexico had a little bit of a negative, but their forecast, again, look pretty much negative for everything. So 2020 is not a good year. 2021, we think will be more optimistic, but you will know very shortly. It depends on the status of the vaccine and the medicines. You know, everything about economics and finance is about confidence. If you don't have confidence, you don't spend. So here is a global measure of confidence. Anything blue and light blue and so on are considered low confidence. So the whole world basically has low confidence. Take a look. And somehow the US is kind of in the borderline. And I don't know, India, when this was done, had high confidence. Saudi Arabia or what's this? Dubai had high confidence. But if you look at the whole world, sorry, people are not excited. That's what that is saying. We don't know what to do. Our confidence for shopping is no good. However, some people, and by the way, if you ever need information about economics, you go to a place called the Conference Board. And they said they saw some signs, but we don't think it's going to come in very quickly. So that's what that slide is about. Some signs of recovery, but it's hard. So that's the world. The world is a very uncertain place right now. Let's come to the US. Now, the US is a very different story. I'm going to close this because I want to see the whole screen. If you need to say something, just jump in, okay? All right, here we go. This is the story of the world, but this is not for the United States. Look at this GDP growth. They were all positives. When we get 1%, 2%, and 3%, we're a happy camper as a country. Wow, look what happened in 2020. This one went to over 30% drop. That's like, I don't know, you can't even explain that. We don't see that except for once every 100 years, you see something like that. So that's what we're fighting right now. Same story, but now we go from 1950. Not this one was only from 2016 to 2020. If you go from 1950, by the way, all the little bars represent official recessions. And if you look at the real gross domestic product, this is a measure of goods and services produced in a country per year. So they change. See here, look at these are percentages. Whenever there's a recession, it drops. See here, drops, so on. But it goes up and down. And there was a time when it grew very fast and then it grew here. This was not a bad period here in the 70s, mid-80s, right, early 80s. Then you have these. I want you to recognize the world never grows smoothly as we do in economics class. Everything goes up and down, up and down. But this is the troublemaker, the same 30% I told you. So in the context of how many years is that? 70 years. This one just knocks your socks off. It's way down into negative territory. And the challenge is we don't know how to deal with it as a world, as a country. Same story in terms of initial claims for unemployment. Most of the unemployment in all the other times were under 1 million. Lo and behold, 2020, it shot up to close to 7 million, and then it came back down, but it's still pretty high. Initial claims mean when you go to the unemployment office to try to get some help because you don't have a job, and they record it. So in September, we had a 7.9 unemployment rate. It was over 8% the month before, and it's improved a little bit. Now, take a look at the world, the United States. I don't give all the data. If you look at September is the best one. 61 million people out there. The labor force only has, it's not out there. That's the civilian non-institutional population. Now we have 160 million in the labor force. And then if you stop and think, our unemployment rate is 7.9, the number I just gave you. 7.9 means almost 12.6 million people out of work. Stop and digest that for a little bit. 5.6 million people and they have families to feed and so on. So the good thing is that we have 147 million, I think you see it here, 147 million that are working, almost 47.5 million. But we do have 12.5 or 0.6 million, and that's the troublemaker, the 12.5. So our job is to figure out how to help those 12.5 and get the unemployment rate way down so we don't have that many people unemployed. Same story. Look at the unemployment rate. I'm giving you some basic economics. Whenever there's a recession, the unemployment rate goes up. See those gray bars? Up. See here, this is the bad one that all of us knew called the Great Recession. See here, way out of hand, 10%. Then it dropped beautifully to about 3.5. Then it went crazy. to see here, 15, nearly 15%. Then it fell back down, and right now is around 7.9%. That's the world that we live in, and that's the world. Why, you notice here, the pandemic is something we have never seen before, and therefore we don't have a recipe book to follow. So all governments of the world, they go way back to the Spanish flu of 1918, and they come up with some kind of suggestions, but it doesn't help us much because we really need how to manage it. So every country is struggling how to deal with COVID. And you guys, if you follow the news, are aware that COVID is spiking again all over the world? Anybody have seen that? You could answer.
Yes, I've seen it.
Yeah,
I've seen it also.
It hurts your heart, doesn't it? Because poor countries, rich countries, Europe is going through crazy times right now. And so all this data we made fall back economically. You know, uncertainty is the same story, and the US has the same challenge as the world. These spikes are uncertainty spikes. They just measure. And the Great Depression, Great Recession, huge spike, meaning people are very uncertain. Lo and behold, 2020, it has a huge spike too, probably not as bad as that. Well, it is bad, but the spike kind of is meandering closer to here, meaning uncertainty level for people is very high. And I cannot impress upon you that uncertainty is a real concern in our society for family as well as for government and for everybody. I had restaurant workers from Tampa asking me, Professor, when will the restaurants come back to normal? They make money from throughput, people coming in. And I had to be firm with them and says the data does not show that people are going to flood your restaurants in the near future. Flood is the key word. Some people will go, but they will not be filling those restaurants for maybe a year. The answer depends on the vaccine and the therapeutics. So now I'm not going to paint all the picture bad. The conference board said that there was some increase in consumer confidence in September, and employment looks like, it's not, they still want to hire a few people. Some economic indicators show that maybe we're going upward a little bit. And the last one is a key one, CEOs' confidence. They interview some of the key CEOs, a lot of them in the country, and then they get their pulse, how they feel, and they had a little better belief of the world. Now, you'll never believe this. I just got this at 11:30 today. Today, this came out, and this is a little bit better picture of the world. If you look at the GDP, the orange-looking line, it's not growing fast, but it's trying to go upward. But notice it's still in negative territory, but it's like -5 or so. And so if we don't get a spike, and I just told you there is a spike, so I don't know what's going to happen in the fourth quarter for economics, because this spike, by the way, I hope you understand why economics slows down. The countries in Europe are already deciding that they're going to start closing down the economy. Only essential is going to be open, and that implies the GDP will fall. If we ever start to do some of that, then they expect the GDP to go down, all right? But presently, the indicators look like we're slowly rising, and this is good news. All right. So let's go to Florida. Florida has about 10 million people working. The unemployment rate in Florida is 7.5%, 7.4%, and that works out to about 750,000 people. So I look out my window and I look at South Florida, has a lot of people, and I look throughout, we know Florida, a little over 750,000 people are out of work. And Florida is expensive, correct? You don't have a job in Florida, life gets tough very quickly. All right, I'm not gonna go through this too much, but I'll tell you, whenever I see table of data, I look for the big numbers. So this is the total that's on a non-farm. So if we have 10 million working in Florida, 8.5 million is on non-farm, then there's roughly 1.5 million working with farm related. Some of you might say, Florida, farming? Florida has a huge farming industry. I hope you understand. It's the second largest to tourism. Florida has a lot of agriculture. Don't forget that. All right, I run my eyes on this table, and when I look at the number of people, here's a big one. Nearly over 560,000 people. That's construction. Then I look at the percent change. It's not doing very well. See here, negative. Then manufacturing, almost 400,000 people, still negative, not doing very well. Here's a monster one, almost 1.8 million people, minus 3%, not doing very well. Information, 126,000 people, that's not doing very well either. Financial services, a little under 600,000 people, not doing very well. This is a big one. Professional, 1.3 million people, 5% in negative. Education and health services, they mix those, 1.3 million people. That's not so bad, not a big reduction. Do you understand why? Education doesn't drop very often, and health services, boy, we surely need them now. This is the one that really perks us up because there's 1 million people working in the tourism industry and hospitality, and they're still nearly 20% drop. They have not come back. They're far from back. All right, the last one I want you to see is government. Government hires over 1 million people. That has a little bit of shiny sunshine that they've grown a little bit, not a lot. So they still have a lot of people that they're hiring. So the report card of Florida is the one that hits you, is that the leisure and hospitality is far from getting back on track to become normal. Look at over here, it was -3, and in December, it was doing beautifully. All right, last slide here for Florida is the 3 counties, West Palm, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach, and Miami-Dade. And this is the weirdest thing because I'm putting 3 counties kind of in one graph. So you have to do the color coding. Then when I sum them, I put the line on top. So when you look at this, take a look over time from 15 to 2020, July, we had change, positive growth in employment. See here? Then it fell here. Something happened in 17, didn't look so good. Then then it went up in July. And notice the magnitudes are different per county, but then you keep an eye. And this is where I want you to see. Everything went crazy after January. I mean, really crazy. Miami-Dade had the big hit. Then Broward, see here, the blue line, big hit. And then West Palm also. Then it improved a little bit, and it's still in negative territory. But this is some slight improvement. But we don't like negative. We want to be back up in positives. So I like to use up to December of 2020. We don't have December here, but it's right around here. That was all positive, and then it dropped off the cliff. I call that dropping off the cliff, climbing back up slowly, and the question is what's going to happen. So let's talk about the world forecast. This is the world forecast. And it says this is where we are, and then we dropped off the cliff. How are we going to grow back over? See here? We're going to eventually, all of us going to go. But notice, this growth is going to take, these are indices, but it's going to go over here. It's going to take 2 years, at least 1 to 2 years. And that's the thing I want you to get, that we're not just going to they have something called a V-shape recovery and a U-shape recovery and some K-shape recovery, some going up and some going down, but generally up. But as you can see, this picture looks like it's V-shape, but that's because of the way it's drawn. Because here it's going to go, it's not going right back up. It's going to take time. If you go from here, Q1, Q4, 2021, 22. So I think it's more of a slow recovery, and that's not good news for a lot of people. Those out of work, they want it to recover quickly so they have a job. The United States, the CEOs, when they did that study in August, and remember, when you take data like this, it's a snapshot. Question, you have a question?
Oh, no, sorry, Professor. I was talking to my wife. Sorry.
All right. Oh, no, that's cool. All right. And so you look here, CEOs in August were having a good time. They said, you know what, we may start planning. We'll cut back a little bit, but we'll keep an eye on things. Now, this is how we as economists think. This is that picture I showed you before, and we want to know where things are going to go in the United States. And that's where they ask people like me and you guys will need to come up with your own forecast. This is where we got a forecast from Deloitte to share. These some brilliant guys, and I like what they did. They decided, they looked at the data, good times, it's going to drop off a little bit for maybe a year or so, and then it's going to edge back upward. And I believe that's a reasonable forecast. All of you, stop and think about that. So 2020 is about done. We're still having troubles. If we have a vaccine and therapeutics in the mid next year, then it's going to go back up. And then hopefully we'll get pre-COVID versions of economics in 2 years or 3 years. That's my forecast anyway. So this is kind of what we like, except for one thing. What do you see here that you would like to remove from these people?
Yes.
Thank you. That's the only difference. We want them with bigger bags to go more shopping, but we want the mask to come off. But the mask should only come off if we feel confident that your lives are not at risk as it is now. We have throughout the country, in fact, yesterday there was no state that was having a decline. Everything was up, 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 up. So beware, and this is what we want. We want people to go back. So now I'm going to talk about money. How are we doing? What are we doing? Good, because I only have a few more slides. You see, COVID is impacting the whole world and all our functions. I mean, it's just made a dent in our lives, all of us. So I said that I need to survive. You need to survive. You guys have military background. Survival is key to your existence. And so you bring that to the consumer and to the regular American lifestyle, it's still the same. So this example of Darwinism is dogs have a good sense of smell, are better able to survive than dogs without a good sense of smell. Then all dogs evolved to have good sense of smell, because those who are bad smell, those with bad smell, sense of smell will die out. Does that ring a bell? Does that make you think that survival of the fittest is the same thing? Is that correct?
In terms of finance, I would say yes. I would agree to that.
Yeah. Well, we're translating it because even the dogs, if you are a terrible, actually the only one that comes to mind when it comes to animal is what you call those animals that everybody has adopted, and then one has, or nature brings out one that's so it's not colorful. It's either very different from the rest. There's a name for it. Like, some snakes have standard gray color, and then there comes a pink one. That pink one doesn't survive. Why?
It doesn't blend into the environment that well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And therefore, the eagles will find it very quickly.
Yeah. So